Matthew chapter 5, it's called the Sermon on the Mount. And in the Beatitudes, Jesus just cites things, attitudes actually, not so much behaviors, attitudes, and, which sometimes generally seem negative. Like you don't, for instance, you don't want to be poor. But that's the first beatitude. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. I don't like to mourn. Blessed are the meek. I don't like to look like I'm in a position, a powerless position of weakness, which, by the way, is not really what meekness means. Meekness, I said last time, is power under control. And they will inherit the earth. I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't really even know when. But so what's the point of, that's where we left off last time. What's the point of the meek? They're made happy because they will inherit the earth. I don't know. As I said last time, I'm inclined to think could be talking about the new heaven and the new earth, and the meek will inherit that. And yet, there are times when, by restraining my potential outburst, when my strength is controlled, just the way the world works, I will inherit, it puts within my grasp many more good things than when I just let it blow. All right, well, pretty well demonstrated. I don't really know what that means. Let's move on. Verse 6, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. I do know what that's like. I do know what that amounts to. When a person is hungry and thirsty for righteousness, obviously this is a very symbolic phrase. Righteousness, okay, this is on a couple of levels at least. First of all, if I hunger and thirst for righteousness, then I got to think about what's the definition of righteousness? Well, I've talked about this a bunch of times before. It's not hard. Just break the word up. Rightness. I long for, I hunger for, I thirst for the world to work on the basis of what is right. Seems like, to me, and I don't think I'm the only one who feels this, that's a ways away. I mean, we are not there. The world does not appear to be working on the basis of what is right. It so often, I mean, this is nothing recent, but for so long in history, it has been might makes right. Well, Jesus says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Yeah. Now, there's another side to this picture of hungering and thirsting for righteousness. I do hunger and thirst for rightness, to be the normal, consistent nature of the world. I wish for that. I want that. But, and I don't think that's an unimportant one, but more important is that I am hungry and thirsting for my own righteousness. that I would come to think and do and behave in righteous, right ways. Jesus says my paraphrase is, if you get hungry enough for that, you'll find it. You will be filled. All right. I'm gonna kind of dance on the borderline here between law and grace. Grace says, I am made righteous because of what Jesus has already done. Okay? And then because of grace, I have the ability, I have the power, not from within, it's an external power that works on me and then in me to make it possible for me to live in a right way. Now, the law side says you are righteous if you do all the right things. And the law describes what those right things are. How do you put those two together? Well, I just think it comes down to, do I do these things to be righteous? And that's the goal, that's the payoff. Or do I do these things because of God's grace at work in me and it produces righteousness? I kind of want to go that way. All right. And then verse 7, blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Isn't to me, excuse me, I can throw rocks about this, but I'd have to throw a boomerang, because I want to be shown mercy, but I don't particularly enjoy being merciful. We're in an election year, if you're viewing this in 2014, and it is going to get ugly. A lot of things are going to be said that you're going to want to I don't care what political affiliation you have, you're going to want to take exception. It just, that's the nature of politics. I find myself, and this is a weakness. This is not something I would want anybody else to emulate. But I find myself being very easily angered and even resentful toward people who don't, and views that don't agree with mine. But I want to have mercy from the people that don't agree with my views. It just doesn't work that way. Cultivating mercy requires attention, it requires intention, and it requires grace. Mercy, I haven't talked about this in a while, but I've talked about it a lot. The three prevailing themes in the Bible are justice, mercy, and grace. Justice is getting what I deserve. Mercy is not getting what I deserve. And grace is getting what I can't deserve. So let's focus on mercy for a minute. It's not getting what I deserve. Mercy. If I'm going to show mercy to someone else, does it mean I throw out the fact that the reality of what they may have done or said? No. It means I choose not to do to them what their words and deeds would deserve. See, mercy is not about it is about what I deserve, but it's not getting what I deserve. Now, this, I suppose there are people who could do this on a pure intellectual basis, but I cannot. It is very difficult for me to restrain myself, the judgment that they would get what they deserve. There's something that I think it's because of my brokenness, but there's something in me that that just seems to feel so good. Well, the problem is, if I live in a world of justice only, I'll get what it's the law of echoes. I get back what I send out. If I send out only justice, I'm going to get only justice. And there are a lot of times I am so grateful that God, yes, he is just, but he is also loving. Jesus, according to John, came full of grace and full of truth. I can't explain to myself, let alone to you, how those two things, it was not like half truth and half grace that makes a whole. It's all grace, all truth at the same time, full of. And mercy is joined at the hip with grace. If I show mercy, I will be shown mercy. But it's a real possibility that the mercy I'm shown will not be from the person I showed mercy to. This is not a promise that if you're merciful to them, they'll be merciful to you. I'm sure you've had it happen where that it didn't work. You showed mercy, they didn't. That's part of the human experience. But I believe there is a sense in which when I show mercy, I am shown mercy back. And I believe the ultimate of this is that God shows me mercy. Again, now we're talking, there's a kind of a dichotomy here between grace and law. Law says if you want to be shown mercy, you must show mercy. And there's a logic to that, a reasonable logic. The grace side says because you have been shown mercy, show mercy. And then, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. The pure in heart are, that's kind of, if you, to whatever degree, this is kind of how I look at this, to whatever degree my heart is pure, to that degree I will see God. Now, again, so much of this is set where you have law and you have grace. The law says, have a pure heart. Make sure your heart is pure so that you can see God. And again, there's a logic to that. But the truth is, I think the pure in heart are the only ones that will see God. But grace says, because God has purified you, now you can see him. Obviously, we're not going to see God physically. Let me rephrase that. I think I can see God and what he is doing in my life and in other people's lives. I can see the evidence of God in nature, and every time I'm out in it, I have some around in the desert around Las Vegas, there are breathtaking examples. I see him, but I won't see him to any greater degree than My heart is pure. This takes some thought and unpacking, and I've already burned up my time. So we're going to come back to this next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.